pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me.
Michigan Motor Speedway, home of the Midwest, the best racetrack for the Racers Elite Cup Series. We're joining you now live on lap number 1. I apologize for the pre-race mistakes. We had to solve an issue that involved a restart of multiple computers, and we're now live with you here as there is a battle between Gordon Spain and Puffenbarger for the lead here at Michigan. My name's Jonathan Leach. Joining me tonight is Daniel Paulus in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth. Daniel, Michigan is a race that I have been looking forward to, and so now that we've got the gremlins out of the way, we've got 98 more laps of nothing but awesome for the Nextgen Cup Series. What would you say is the keys to this week's or tonight's race, and who do you think is going to have a showing of a champion?
Well, you know, Michigan International Speedway, we see high racing going on here. Top speed here going into turn number 1. We're going to see them going over 190 miles per hour entering turn number 1. I expect to see what we saw last week at Las Vegas. It's the playoffs. Everybody's ramped up and anxious because they want to move on to the next round. And we saw that at Las Vegas, so I'm expecting to see that tonight here from Michigan.
You know, Michigan's a fast racetrack. Tire wear will come into play here, as well as the draft. If you don't draft well, you're going to find yourself behind. Let's take a brief moment right now to get ready to look at the point standings. We're going to take a look at the race information. 2 miles is the track length. The temperature is 94 degrees on the track, so these drivers are going to be fighting the track condition as we go on. Take a moment here. The points coming into this race. Leading in the point standing is the leader of the race, Brandon Puffenbarger, at 2,047 points. Kinsley Smith is 2,046 points. So second place, running all the way back in 16th in that number 15 machine for Kinsley Smith. You can see that these drivers are awfully close as far as the points go. Another notable driver that needs to have a really, really great race, however, is going to be the Austin Smith machine, who was out last week. He's only got 2,006 points. He needs to have a good race, Daniel.
He's going to have a good race, I expect, here from Michigan, but you're going to see different drivers probably poking up in here inside the top 10, top 5, because this is a kind of a little different style racetrack. It's a little bigger than Las Vegas, and I want to mention this, John. Again, we do not want to have pit road mistakes, because if you make a mistake, it could cost you a win, or it could cost you a lot of track position, which could really put you in a hole here in the playoffs, and you don't want to be digging yourself out of a hole, because it's pretty hard to do that.
You know, in one hole that you could think of from last week, Alex Teft was just involved in multiple situations. Ended up being, in fact, in 2 situations. We had 3 cautions last week. 2 happened within the first 5 laps, and Alex Teft was involved in both of them. Ended up finishing 1 car away from being the last place car. Although he hung tight, still gathered some points. Now he's running 4th. Tonight he needs to be challenging for the win. Might as well try to lead the most laps to get a bonus point, and have the fastest lap as well to get an additional bonus point. He's going to need to have a good night, but it is worth mentioning that he is by no means in the worst situation of the points right now. He came into this one but 2,031 points, so he's only 15 back of Brandon Puffenbarger, so he is definitely within striking distance. To have 2 bad races in a row would effectively, most likely end his championship hunt. So Alex Teft looking to have a really good night for the rest of the playoffs.
See right here, working on lap number 8, going to work on lap number 9 here, but you see right inside here in the top 5, you see Brandon Puffenbarger, Gordon Spain, Brad Hayes, Alex Teft, and Austin Smith. Remember, Austin Smith wasn't in the race last week, John, at Las Vegas, so he could be a potential threat here to win.
So it's worth mentioning 8 of the top 10 drivers are playoff cars. You can tell that by looking at the tower on the left side of the screen, by looking at the sea of green. The only drivers not a part of the playoffs are Marshall Harris in the 32 Ford and the number 7 Chevrolet of Michael Brooks. And you can see those two drivers on screen right here as we're kind of centered on Michael Brooks's machine. He's showing a 25 as the paint scheme, but for timing and scoring purposes, that's the number 7. And then right in front of him, the 32 of Marshall Harris. So 2 drivers outside of the playoffs trying to make a name for themselves here in Brooklyn, Michigan. I tell you that there is a strong amount of the Midwest team drivers right here. Corey Crowell, Midwest Motorsports, his team. Corey Crowell, Austin Smith, two notable drivers there, as well as others are involved, I should say. These guys were waiting on this race, Daniel. They wanted to get to Michigan. Midwest tracks are their bread and butter, and now they're here, and they're excited. And we're going to see what those Midwest Motorsports drivers have for the rest of the field tonight.
Gonna have to keep a close eye on that here. They might be inside the top 5, all of them later on in this race. Who knows? One of them could come out on top and win here from Michigan. As we're gonna go through the field right now, you see right outside your top 5, we're gonna have Alex Teft in the 43. 7th place, we're gonna have the 93 Zach Lockett. He was very, very strong here in Las Vegas last week, so I want to keep a close eye on him. The 82 of Joshua O'Neill is in 8th place. 9th place, Marshall Harris in the 32 machine. Had a very strong running the last few weeks. And then sitting in 10th place, we have Michael Brooks, another driver that I want to keep a close eye on here, because you see drivers outside the top 10 that I would expect to be inside the top 10 later on in this race. I'm looking at Diego Rodriguez, because, you know, he has been very, very good these last few weeks. You see Kensley Smith, who's coming off a win not too long ago. You see Jeremy Carter, Joan Schoenbachler, you see Paul Shaw, Andrew Teff, Truth Hope, and I'm going to even put out here Sam Kolas, because these are drivers that we normally see inside the top 10 here and there. But I do expect to see them later on in this race, and I wouldn't be shocked if one of them are leading this race later on.
Well, you know, we talk about some of these drivers. It's usually by the end of the race that we find them up there. We've seen Andrew Teth start from the back, and normally by the end of the race, he's a top 5 car. Same thing we've seen from Truth Hoke. We've also seen it from Brandon Honeycutt. And sometimes Diego Rodriguez sneaks his way up there. And you can't discount the number 4, Dennis Kane. It's a driver who just does not have the finishes that represent his ability to drive. This guy, he is consistently fast, consistently competitive. He just, unfortunately, does not have the finishes necessary to be victorious.
Seeing these drivers using that middle and high groove here right now from Michigan International Speedway. But you see a few drivers on that inside line. It's not where you typically want to be here at Michigan. You know, you want to run heading into turn number 1 using that middle or high groove, and then dive down using that middle line in the turns, and then come off and get a good corner exit to potentially pass somebody later on.
And so we want to bring up that this is a drafting racetrack. And you can see that with how these drivers are going down the course, just kind of one behind the other, and then making that turn down to the lower lane to try to gain position. And 3 and 4 is a really good place to pass on this track, because once you build up all that momentum coming out of turn 2, coming into 3 and completing the turn out of 4. However, you've got to have a good 2 corners on the opposite side of the track to make anything happen, and you're looking at quite the battle right here around the 9th place position. You've got Gordon Spain, Brandon Zimmerman, and Marshall Harris. So lots of drivers going at it here on lap 16, and I expect it to be like this for the better part of the race. It's also worth mentioning how wide Michigan is. You can see it right there. You could probably run 4 cars wide in the corner. I wouldn't recommend it, because when these vehicles tighten up, you risk contact. but they can absolutely handle, or the track can handle that many cars. And you see right here, you have Diego Rodriguez along with the 82 of Joshua Neal, a playoff driver, and Kinsley Smith, all kind of involved in the same gaggle right here of Schoenbachler and Brandon Honeycutt. This is all for around the, let's call it the 11th to 14th position. And now they're going to single file out, but don't be surprised if Joshua Neal makes a move here coming into the corner.
As you see right here, working our way around from Michigan International Speedway. I want to focus right now on Andrew Teff, currently sitting 18th, mid-pack right now. Do we expect to see him potentially get up inside the top 5 within the coming laps?
I want to keep an eye on right here with Joshua Neal. He's in 12th. Take a moment, pull up the points coming into the race for him. He's in, let's see, 11th in points. He's got 25 points. So he's kind of a ways out. So we recognize that he needs to come to the front in a hurry. And he started around 10th place, and he's fallen back a little bit. But now it seems like his tires are coming to him a bit more. And he's hanging on to the 11th place position. He's about a second behind Jeremy Carter, who's another playoff driver, who's also in need of having a good race. Carter did not have the race that he wanted to have last week.
And we did see drivers last week that didn't really have a great run, but you know, those drivers are trying to turn it around and have a great run here at Michigan. But you know, for Michigan, I hear that the tires here don't really work very well when you're using them abusively, because when you're doing that, you're not going to have the speed as the other drivers who are conserving their tires, and that could really hurt you.
I would have to agree with you, as we're seeing a really good battle right here, right behind with Brandon Honeycutt and John Schoenblacher. This is for the 12th place position. These guys really going at it. And, you know, this is Michigan racing right here. You're going to have a lot of side-by-side action, momentum racing. You don't want to slow up. I'm very curious to see what green flag pit stops are going to look like, because you almost have to have drafting help in Michigan, just like at the larger super speedway tracks as in Talladega and Daytona and Atlanta. You almost have to have it, otherwise you end up losing a lot of time. It's also worth mentioning the best lap of the night was a 38.72, it looks like, by Joshua Neal. So a driver that needs it. I take that back. It was Kinsley Smith, 38.69. These guys are already running lap times in the 40s, and we're only 21 laps into the run. So it's worth noting that tires will play a factor in today's race. And so when drivers start coming down pit road, you have to take note of that as another driver yourself, and be sure to go and get your tires, and make sure you don't lose a lot of time to drivers on new tires. And for the Cup Series, it's worth mentioning 1 fast repair, and you get 4 tire sets that you can change out at 75% fuel, up to 3 green white checkers. So if I'm one of these guys, around lap 30 perhaps is going to be around when I want to come in, split this 3 ways and save a set for a last minute green white checker. So let's see if my prediction around lap 30 is correct for green flag pit stops. You guys watching, thank you for being a part of the Racers Elite Cup Series fan base and watching this on Sim Racing Media. I want to apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. For some reason, when we went live, we could not populate the racing screen, and because of that, I had to shut everything down and reset everything and get it back to going. So I apologize for missing pre-race. We'll be sure to talk to drivers under any potential cautions, and we'll be interviewing multiple playoff drivers at the end of this race, so we can get the perspective of each individual driver competing for this championship tonight. As we're approaching lap 25, Daniel, what is, you know, What do you want to see out of somebody that's not very consistent for the remainder of the playoffs? Do you think they need to go out and win a race, or do they just need to figure out a way to be consistent in the top 5 for the remaining 4 races in order to win this thing? Or do you think a couple wins and a bad place finish might get it done?
Well, I can have to agree with all of those actually, but you know what I'm looking for is a driver who didn't really have a strong race last week, and they didn't get a top 5 or top 10, and they were in the playoffs, because I do remember there were some playoff drivers that weren't even inside the top 10. So I'm looking at those drivers specifically to see if they are going to try a different method here to have a little more gain in the playoffs, even though they could be in a really big hole right now. They might have something up their sleeve. So I'm looking at those different aspects. I'm looking at how these drivers are racing their cars right now, seeing if they're being conservative with their car or they're pushing it a little bit. But right now, it looks like most of these drivers are just seeing how their car is handling. But when they do come to pit road, I expect these drivers to get, all 4 tires and a splash of fuel. No problem there. But again, it's just going to matter who gets off of pit road when, and before or after a driver that you could be, contending on the racetrack. Because last week on pit road, we did see 2 drivers come off of pit road and they flip-flopped places, and that decided the winning factor there. So I don't know if that's going to happen here tonight from Michigan, but I do expect to see some drivers maybe play different strategies, see some drivers come in before other drivers that we were expecting to come in. Because remember, we see drivers like Andrew Teft in that 6th machine always play something strategy-wise.
Well, it's a good way to put it there. Let's take our viewpoint and come up here to the lead in 2nd place as Puffenbarger, Smith, and Alex Teft. Might as well throw Brad Hayes in the mix. These 4 drivers are all within a blanket, all within a 0.5 of a second for the race lead. It's notable here, Austin Smith is up 15 positions since the start of this race. He has nearly the fastest lap of the event, and he is hunting down Brandon Puffenbarger. Could this be a statement for Austin Smith, who had to miss last week for a work trip, but now he's back for the remainder of the playoffs? He needs to win this race to catch back up to the rest of the field and have a shot at this. As you look at Alex Teft, another driver who needs a rebound night, trying to follow Austin Smith to the lead, but he's going to make it 3 wide down the front stretch, side by side at the start-finish line, and that leaves Brad Hayes on the high side following Puffenbarger 3 wide into turn number 1. The battle's now between Smith and Teft for P1. Out of the corner, it's going to be whoever gets the best run out. I'm not sure based on this who it's going to be. I think Austin Smith has a little more speed right now. I think he's going to be able to step away with this lead into turn 3. He does. Now Puffenbarger battling hard on the outside of Alex Teft, trying to hang on to P2. Teft has him cleared. Will he slide up in front of him? Yes, he will. New leader out in front in Michigan, Austin Smith, 23 Chevrolet driver. No, and Alex Teft isn't going to let this guy get too far away from him right here. Neither will Brandon Puffenbarger or Brad Hayes. So the battle for the lead is one to keep an eye on. But we have another battle a little bit further back here brewing between Jeremy Carter, Zach Lockett, Brandon Zimmerman, and Corey Crowell. Zimmerman, the only driver involved right here that's not a playoff car. These guys are within 0.3 of a second also. As we got our first car coming down pit road, that's going to be Zimmerman. Right behind him, Joshua Neal. So our first playoff driver to pit is going to be Joshua Neal, pitting from around the 16th place position on lap 31. Daniel, how good am I? Made a guess that it would be about this time when pit stops begin, and the first 3 drivers come down. So what's left to wonder is, when will the leaders come down? How long will it take them to notice that other drivers are coming down pit road right now?
Well, let me tell you right here, John, your guess was as good as anybody's. but you are spot on here from Michigan. And now that we've seen a few drivers coming down pit road, I expect to see a whole bunch of more drivers come down and fin the next lap or two.
We're going to keep an eye on it. Here comes Kinsley Smith, P2 in the playoff points coming into the night down pit road. Everything seems to be solid for him. Not really running where we'd expect to see Kinsley Smith, but this is another one of those drivers who tends to figure it out by the end of the race. Back to the front right here. Really, it's almost like a game of chicken. The one who goes first is going to have the advantage. And it doesn't look like any of these guys are coming down this time by. If I'm the second group back here, or maybe even the third group led by Corey Corral, I want to beat these guys to pit road. I can change tires 4 times for this race, so why not go ahead and do 3-3-3? So now 33-34, then again around lap 67, and then you can do it again around lap 90 and have 10 laps on fresh tires. And then if you want to get really fancy, you still have an extra set for the evening. Another driver, Michael Brooks, down pit road. Kinsley Smith was on pit road for 44.73 seconds. If I'm a leader, I'm not staying out too much longer, but the battle for the lead is up as Alex Teft now challenging for the lead.
See right there, the 23 of Austin John Smith right behind the 43 of Alex Teft. And let me tell you, the 23 is going to be a guy that I want to keep a close eye on there, as you see the 3 car of Gordon Spain coming down pit road. But Kinsley Smith last week from Las Vegas was in a position to win it, John, until that late caution came out.
Here they come. Austin Smith, Puffenbarger, Brad Hayes, Alex Tuft's the lone car left out. That's going to bring the rest of the field in. Lockett, Carter, Honeycutt, everybody's coming down pit road. This is pretty much the field. We're going to see how this cycles out. If I'm Alex Teft, I'm coming around this time by. Otherwise, I risk losing a lot of time. And this race is already showing us that there is not going to be very many cautions and not very many opportunities. So Teft down to turn 4, keeping his speed down. Here he comes. Teft going to try to get in a pit road hot, but not too hot. Looks like a clean entry for him. Brad Hayes exiting right now. Trying to see who got out first. Looks like Puffenbarger got out. Austin Smith just in front of them. So let's talk about these pit road times. Austin Smith out of that group, off pit road the fastest. He's got a second gap to Puffenbarger. His pit lane time was only a quarter second shorter than Brandon Puffenbarger, and he made up 1 second on the racetrack. It's worth noting Brad Hayes, Joshua Neal, Kinsley Smith, those guys had longer times on pit lane. And the longer you're on pit lane, the more time you give up to drivers that get on pit road and off pit road quickly. So for Austin Smith, first round of green flag pit stops looks like a win for him. And Alex Teft is back on track, and he's just given up 2 seconds, almost 2.5 seconds, because he pitted 1 lap after Austin Smith. See Thomas Stanley, Sam Kohlhaas come down pit road. I think that's going to be pretty much the end of the first pit cycle.
Didn't see any mistakes on pit road. That was a good job by all these drivers in the playoffs and not in the playoffs. As you see them cycle through, now making their way back out on track here. And Diego Rodriguez right now, currently P13. My bad, P15. I'm doing a good job here tonight, running inside top 15.
There may be a couple more drivers coming off pit road. There's Joe Archer, number 55. Driver was involved last week, and the struggles early. If you want to mention, if I remember correctly, he had a no, he got caught up. No, he did have a wheel issue. So this was at the end of the race. Joe Archer had wheel issues, brought out the last caution last week at Homestead. And this is what changed everything. That caution is what took the race away from Kinsley Smith and pretty much gave it to Brandon Puffenbarger. And really, it was won on pit road. That caution came out. Puffenbarger had a better job on pit road. Kinsley Smith didn't get into his pit box well, and that equated to more time in his pit box. Puffenbarger got out first, and then he won the race. But here in Michigan, everybody's chasing Austin Smith. So this is Jonathan Leach and Daniel Paulus. We're going to step away for just a couple moments. We'll be right back without any more breaks to show you how round 2 of the chase for the Racers Elite Next Gen Cup Series is going to sort out. We'll be back. Back with you now, just below the halfway point at 44 of 100 laps here. Kinsley Smith has begun to climb the ladder. Up 13 positions now since the start of this one. That driver of the 15 Chevrolet battling for 5th place right now. Or excuse me, he's battling Corey Crowell for the 5th place position. Corey Crowell down 5 positions since the start of this race in the 6th place position. Driver, owner of the Midwest Motorsports team, showing why, however, this is his type of racetrack. Joshua Neal, positive. He pitted a little bit earlier than everybody else, and he's made up some ground on track, currently running P7. That is about a net gain of 9 spots for him as he was running around the 16th place prior to the pit stops. It's worth mentioning that Austin Smith is being ever so slightly chased down by Brandon Puffenbarger. Puffenbarger running consistently about a tenth of a second faster each lap. I'm not sure if that's having to do with the draft, or maybe Austin Smith just is not pushing his machine yet. So here on lap 46, still no cautions here at Michigan. I can't say I'm not surprised with this, excuse me, getting all tongue-tied with this caliber of a league. These guys have a lot of respect for each other. They've raced with each other all year long. To them, it's a big deal when things happen on track. And they're doing a really excellent job not allowing that. But let's take a look back here. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen in the battle for 12th between Jeremy Carter, Michael Brooks, Marshall Harris, Rodriguez, Zach Lockett, Dennis Kane is also involved. So we've got 6 drivers all jockeying for 12th position, as Rodriguez is underneath the number 25. That's actually the Michael Brooks machine. 3 wide as the 93 and 32 go right by the that number 5 machine, or excuse me, number 7 machine of Michael Brooks. It's hard. It's getting me a little mixed up because that paint's showing a 25. A little contact is going to send Michael Brooks up the racetrack. And Dennis Kane and Zach Lockett are going to step away now at that position. Move Michael Brooks all the way back to 17th. So, you know, battles like this are just tough because one wrong move, you're 12th, and now all of a sudden you're 17th. So this group right here, led by Jeremy Carter, looking to catch up to Gordon Spain, who's in a battle with John Schoenbachler for 10th. They've been going back and forth the last few laps. Daniel, there are just racing back and forth everywhere on this surface right now.
They're racing everywhere. No matter what corner you're in, they're racing everywhere here tonight. You're seeing cars going 2 by 2, literally side drafting each other down the back and front straightaway to get a good run, to get past around each other. And you're seeing some 3 wide going on here before a few laps back. And here's Brandon Honeycutt right now, currently P8. Didn't really have a good start to Las Vegas, but when it was coming to the closing laps, he was up there in top 5. And now look where he is. He's inside the top 10 again. So, you know, he really wasn't having a great regular season, but now in these playoffs, you can see him coming alive here to be inside the top 10, top 5 more consecutively.
And move our eyes up here to 3rd place, drivers Brad Hayes, Alex Teft. Another one of those battles on the racing service. Teft on the low side, Hayes on the high side in turn number 1. Teft clear by only about a car length. Both of these drivers trying to have the night of their lives, as Brad Hayes had an excellent week last week, and Alex Teft not so much. So, you know, Brad Hayes looking to follow up his last week performance, and Alex Teft looking to capitalize on his good track position tonight. So, you know, really you have the cream of the crop here in the playoff cars. Only one car now in the top 10 that's not a playoff car, and that's Brandon Zimmerman in the 65 Ford. And, you know, that paint scheme is throwing me off a little bit. It looks like that car's got some damage on the front end of it, but I don't think that's actually true. It's just the way that car's paint is. But we're going to keep looking around because this battle continues back here with Rodriguez, Marshall Harris, Zach Lockett, and Dennis Kane. These guys just cannot get away from each other. Wow. Here comes Diego Rodriguez diving to the inside of that 59 machine. Following closely behind Jeremy Carter. Is going to slide right up in front of that 59. That was really close right there.
Wow.
That was just super close. It's worth mentioning that 59, that's Truth Hoka lap car that's right there. Here comes Marshall Harris. He's going to have to slow up, nowhere to go. On the throttle, going to get right up on Truth Hoke. Boy, this is tight racing right now. Lap 53, no cautions, but if we're going to get one, it's going to come from this area of close racing right here. Rodriguez again looking to make a move on Carter. Carter's going to defend it well by turning his wheel to the left down the racetrack. Rodriguez is going to have to get a really good exit. He tries to get it. He's into the wall. That's going to open the door for Zach Lockett right behind him. And, you know, this is right here is Michigan Midwest Racing. We're not under the lights. We're under the hot sun. And that's just how it is for the Michigan Summer Race here in August. You know, it's 93 degrees on this track. And the drivers' temperatures got to be approaching that as well. Or their tempers must be approaching that 93 degree number, as these guys are starting to trade and not give anything to those around them.
I mean, it is the playoffs, but I mean, you're also seeing these drivers putting their car into the wall, which is kind of concerning to me a little bit, but you know, it's hard racing here at Michigan. And a lot of the times here at Michigan, when I raced here, is that turn number 2 is when you are trying to clear up in front of another driver. Sometimes it's so fast you don't even have time to react, and it could end your night in the wall. So want to be careful there off of turn number 2. But great battles going on from all these drivers. They race with respect, and especially if Diego Rodriguez and how he's doing tonight, he's going to get better and better each race.
And so some of these battles are starting to get a little more separation. The battle for the lead is still under 0.3 of a second as Puffenbarger trying to get by Austin Smith. Alex Teft, 0.3 of a second back to Brad Hayes. But you got a second now between second and a half from Corey Crowell to Kinsley Smith. Crowell being victorious of that earlier battle. Honeycutt trying to chase down Kinsley Smith. Joshua Neal has managed to separate himself from Brandon Zimmerman. And Zimmerman with the second back to Gordon Spain. Gordon Spain and John Schlombachler, that's the closest battle on track right now, under 0.2 of a second. This is for the 10th place position. And then back here, this mess, once again, led by Jeremy Carter in 12th place. If you're in the back of this group right here, you're in 16th. If you're in the front of this group, you're in 12th. That's a lot of playoff points from 12th to 16th right there. So you're one of these guys that's in the playoffs. You really need to find a way to get yourself back to that area.
You really do. And so far, we've been running green here the whole night. And these drivers have done an excellent job. I can't say anything else about it because I know that these drivers put every heart and sweat and blood into this, and you know, they're all competing for a championship, the drivers that are in the playoffs. And the way that I see these playoffs go is I think it really brings out these drivers' tempers, because each round that we get closer to that championship, you know, tempers are going to start flaring, and it's going to get a little more aggressive from each race as we move on here after Michigan.
You know, and let's take a minute to talk about going a little bit further in this playoff hunt. So Michigan this week, you have the wild card next week at Talladega. So that's where one of these drivers that's already had a bad night, like Alex Teft, you know, Jeremy Carter, that bad night could come back to haunt you, because if you end up wrecking out with only one faster pair and you finish in the bottom 20 again, you're in trouble. And you know, and I don't think that's going to be recoverable. So I really think next week at Talladega is going to kind of determine who our contenders are and who's no longer really in contention at all. You're going to have a safe race at Talladega. And if you end up having a bad race 2 in a row, Talladega is where you've got to leave it all on the track and go for broke. You need to lead all the laps, have the fastest lap, and you need to win the race. But when you're doing that, you really put yourself at risk for having a catastrophe occur, which would really end your season. So back up front, this battle still goes on. Puffenbarger just in the footsteps of Austin Smith. It's lap 60 of 100. Somebody's thinking about coming to get tires soon. I'm Kinsley Smith. I'm Joshua Neal. I remember last time it worked when I short pitted everybody. Why not do that again? You know, Joshua Neal came down lap 30. He might come back down here in just a minute because it's lap 61. So watch for him to come by in a couple laps. He's up positions because he pitted early. And so is Kinsley Smith, another driver up positions. Here you go, drivers in the back of the field. Joe Archer, Jason Bottoms pitting, separating this lap, race lap 30, 60 or so for them. They are lap down machines. So someone's about to come down pit road. You guys watching, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you. So go ahead. If you're running this race, if you're not actually running this race, because we know some of these drivers like to text and drive. Michigan's not the track for that. When would you pit? You've got 5 total sets of tires. It's 100 laps. At around 30 laps on a tire run, the fall off is about 2 seconds. How would you set up your race? Would you pit, say, 30, 60, 90? Or would you do more like 33, 66, then 90? And then you always have that extra set if there's an untimely caution if you want to try to pick up some ground that way. What do you guys think? Let us know. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. As we're approaching lap 63, I'm still not seeing any driver starting to slow down to come down pit road. And, you know, to me, the window is open right now. They've got 3 more sets. If I'm Diego Rodriguez, I'm coming down pit road right now. I could separate myself from the rest of this group. Or if I'm Jeremy Carter or Schoenbachler, I only need to be out on track 1 lap. I only need 1 lap. On fresher tires than them as they're coming down pit road, I can pick up a second. A second right here could be the difference from that 16th or that 12th. You know, I'm surprised no one's coming down pit road right now, but, you know, that's why I'm in the booth and I'm not a crew chief or a driver.
Well, I probably could see some drivers, you know, stretch us out a little more so they don't have to come down here on lap 90. And I'm just saying they might come down on lap 90.
Yeah, here we go, right here. That's the first car coming down. That's Brandon Zimmerman, the non-playoff car. He got on there hot. I'm not sure if he got it slowed down. I think he did, but we'll see. You know, these guys, you guys need to get this set up and go. And, you know, while we're talking, Corey Crowell texted, I don't text and drive. You're right, Corey. You're texting and you're racing and you're doing it well. You're in 5th place. But I really think it's time you pit. So, anyhow, we're going to look at these guys because getting on pit road from back here, this is going to be the problematic area. Diego Rodriguez might be setting himself up to come down pit road. No, none of these guys are coming down. I don't know what to say. Here comes Dennis Kane.
Well, you see right there in the 4. Making a probably different strategy move than what the other drivers, what I'm thinking they're doing is they're going to try to stretch this out as far as possible. And then they're going to, you know, come down later on, and that's then they don't have to pit on lap 90 because if you're looking at it, they're running 30 lap increments on tires. So I think they're going to try to stretch this out. Don't pit on lap 90. If this thing runs green, they're going to run to the finish. That's what I am assuming right now. We're going to see how this plays out.
You know, I wonder if this guy's listening to us. You know, Corey Crowell, first driver in the top 10 to come down pit road. Kinsley Smith, Joshua Neal, Jeremy Carter. These guys are going to come out better than the rest of the field. Now, Daniel, you might be right. They might be able to stretch it to lap 100 pitting now, not pitting on lap 30. In that case, I would be arrogant of me to keep telling everybody to pit. But I don't really quite know what the fuel looks like. You know, but I liked the 3-stop race idea, but I think there's going to be a caution around lap 90. So Corey Crowell's coming off pit road, total time 44 seconds. Kinsley Smith 43.85. These guys right with each other. Gordon Spain, Zach Lockett in. Curious to see how these guys are going to cycle out as Corey Crowell and Kinsley Smith racing off of pit road right now. I think that's saw a driver, wasn't quite sure who it is. Rejoining the field, here comes Alex Teft. Alex Teft pitting from the lead. Or not from the lead, from second, excuse me.
But now that we see somebody pitting from second, could we see other drivers inside the top 10 come down pit road? That question's yet to be answered. Or are they going to stay out and try a different strategy than these drivers?
Well, there's no way they're making it to the end from lap 34. And I could be really wrong on that. I need to correct myself. Teft did not pit from P2. Puffenbarger's P2. So he pitted from either third or fourth. They believe it was third for Alex Teft. Here comes more drivers down the field. Worth mentioning, Corey Crowell is the highest driver right now that pitted. So far, he is the highest driver on track right now. Pitted on lap 65, a couple laps earlier than everybody else. And he is out front of this group. I don't know if that's going to cycle out for him to be in the race lead. But it's going to be awfully close.
It's going to be extremely close, yeah. But, I mean, this has been an excellent race here. We haven't had no cautions. It having long green flag runs. I mean, were we expecting this to happen, John? Because I remember you saying there might be a caution on lap 90, like what happened on Las Vegas.
A lot of smoke on pit road right here. I don't see any incidents. Brandon Honeycutt pitting out. Rodriguez coming down pit road. Sorry to cut you off, Daniel. I thought we might have had something happen on pit road. I need to correct myself here. So you got back to the front. Austin Smith is going to edge Alex Teft out, but that gap is awfully close. Puffenbarger now 2 seconds behind. So Teft pitting just earlier than Austin Smith has allowed him to catch Austin Smith. And Alex Teft, Austin Smith are now competing for the lead. Corey Crowell, I think, is going to find himself around 5th place. Around 5th or 6th place in a couple moments here. Kinsley Smith up to 7th. So those guys that pitted a little bit earlier are separating themselves from that gaggle of cars that we saw. And, Jeremy Carter, another one of them, he's separated from that group. So pit strategy can go a long way at getting you track position. And after that first run, we saw what the fall off was, as you see Austin Smith looking to the inside of Sam Kohlhaas for the lead. You can really kind of fine-tune your plan. And at this point, I still think if we see a caution, it's going to be around lap 90, in my opinion. But if it does go green, that could have been the stop to win the race.
Let me tell you, this race is going by pretty fast here. And been a great show. You're seeing aggressive moves being made. You're seeing people side drafting each other. But next week, after this race, we're going to go to Talladega. And Talladega, if I was a playoff driver, John, I would want to stay in the back and try not to get involved in any wrecks and wait until there's like maybe 15-10 to go.
Well, and there's a difference of philosophy when you get to Talladega. Sometimes, staying in the back puts you in harm's way. Sometimes being in the lead is the best place to be. But the problem is everybody else wants to be up there too. So you're not just going to be in the lead. You're going to lose those positions, and then all of a sudden you're in the soup. Now, once you're in the soup or in the pot, as someone might say, anything can happen. And man, this is a great race right here for third between Brad Hayes and Puffenbarger. Hayes, not Brad Hayes. I do so apologize. I thought that said 27, but that's actually the Michael Brooks machine, who is right here. He's running 20th, set number 7 and scoring. He's running 20th. Puffenbarger kind of by himself for third. He's about a second behind Alex Teft, and he's got 7 seconds on Brad Hayes. So right now, if it stays green, the battle for the lead is really between Austin Smith, Teft, and Puffenbarger. Now, Brad Hayes has a fairly firm hold on P4, but once you get back here to Kinsley Smith, he's got Corey Crowell right there in his mirror. And things get a little bit, I don't want to say more spread out, but you have little groups of drivers. You got Honeycutt and Zimmerman battling for 8th. Carter, Gordon Spain, that's for 10th. Dennis Kane and Zach Lockett, that's for 12th. So anywhere you look, it seems like there's 2 drivers battling for a position somewhere on this racetrack. It's hard to catch them all because they're happening so fast and catch them all. But 3/4 of the way through this race, these guys to the back in the back are hoping for an equalizer, hoping for a caution. Bunch these drivers back up and see if they've got something for the win. And I'm just not sure it's going to happen until around lap 90.
Just gonna have to wait and see here, John. But this race is flying by. Get it? Flying by. But they're flying by here. And if this thing does run green, I think whoever's out in front right now has a good shot at winning. And that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that would be Austin John Smith in the 23 machine.
I want to take a minute, as you're mentioning that, and let's talk about points right here. If you win the race, you get 46 points. You get 3 more points than the second place driver. So for a driver like Austin Smith, who's at the bottom of the playoffs there in 12th at 2,006 points, to win the race and gain 3 points, kind of make 3 points back on everybody, plus those 46 points is going to put him somewhere in the middle of the field, and it's going to make him competitive for the rest of the chase. And this is what he mentioned a couple weeks ago, that he's going to have to come back and pretty much win a race, maybe 2, to possibly win the championship. But he's showing right now that that can be done. Puffenbarger running P2. I assume that if he finishes P2, he's going to hang on to his points lead. Alex Teft P3, he's going to climb and find himself in a better place. So that's what the points look like right now. At the end of the race, we'll be able to update them minus bonus points and let you guys know where your favorite drivers and where these Cup guys are looking as far as going into Talladega. We'll be able to tell you who's kind of got a little bit of room and who doesn't. But, this isn't an elimination format. It's who accrues the most points. So you really need to stay in the top 5 and accrue as many points as possible to walk away with the championship.
Well, let's just say Talladega, you're entering Talladega, you're in a hole right now, entering Talladega. Well, let me just tell you, you may want to be very, very careful, because Talladega, how Talladega is. There are wrecks like no other track that I've seen, and it has cost people points and points and points and positions. And if you get involved in so many instances at Talladega and you're already in a hole, there's a pretty good chance you're out. You're done for. But if you're having a good solid run entering Talladega, see how your car's handling, see who you're racing around, see who's a good pusher. But remember, nobody's safe. It doesn't matter if you're in the back or the front or the middle, because if you're in the front, you can get turned very easily. If you're in the back, well, you could get involved in the big one. So nobody's safe entering Talladega. It's basically a wild card next week. So whoever comes out on top there pretty much dominated Talladega.
And I like how it's strategically placed in the middle of the playoffs. It's the 3rd race out of 5. And, that kind of goes back to my earlier thought that you have to survive Talladega. Not only survive, but you have to finish well if you're going to win the championship. And so I really think about half of these guys are going to be eliminated from true contention next week at Talladega. And tonight we might have a good idea of who that's going to be as well. And someone worth noting, Andrew Teft still hasn't found his way to the front. He's running 17th right now with really no opportunity to increase position without a caution. And, to finish 17th tonight is not going to go well for him. Last week he finished 13th. 17th is not a good finishing place for him. And all these other guys are following up pretty well. The top 10 is all playoff drivers, and so only Zach Lockett and Teft are on the outside. Saw Brandon Honeycutt just take over position from Joshua Neal, move him up to 7th. So sea of green in the top 10, Daniel. 19 to go.
Just 19 laps to go here from Michigan, and laps are winding down very fast. But look at who's currently in 6th place right now. Is the 15 of Kensley Smith. Remember, last week, I'm going to mention it again, was dominating that whole race until that late caution came out and finished did inside the top 5 and top 3. But, you know, Kenzie Smith, here we are again, having a really solid run. Joshua Neal's in here, having a very good run also. And these are just drivers that, again, we expected to see up front. But, you know, Talladega, I mean, John, if you have enough points and you get involved in a wreck at Talladega, you don't finish so well. Is there still a risk that you are so far behind in points that you're not even going to be in contention to win a championship after Talladega?
Well, you know, let's not keep looking so far ahead of Talladega. We got to finish these next 18 laps right here. But in the issue for going into Talladega is the top 10 right now. The top 11 are playoff cars right now. The top 11. So they're not really going to separate themselves that much. Talladega will separate them. You know, but right now, if you had a bad race last week, you need to be in a better spot this week. So Jeremy Carter, he really needs to find a couple more positions. He needs to get by Joshua Neal and Brandon Honeycutt. Joshua Neal didn't have the greatest finish last week either, but he's solidly in the top 10, running 8th. He needs to not lose any more positions, and ideally, he needs to gain a couple more spots. And then drivers like Smith, Puffenbarger, they can afford to, well, not Smith, but Puffenbarger can afford to go backwards a little bit. Brad Hayes, Corey Crowell, they could go backwards a little bit, but they're not, and that's how you're going to crown your champion for this series, is these guys that find a way to stay in the top 5 week in, week out, as Austin Smith has almost a 2.5-second lead on Alex Teft, and Puffenbarger's chasing Teft down. So we're going to have a battle for second here awfully soon. You know, and for Puffenbarger, that'll be separating himself more from competition that's uniquely strong at super speedway style tracks, and that being Alex Teft.
Gonna have a great battle going on for second very soon. You see right there the 82 of Joshua Neal. Last lap he ran a 39.639.
Now he's got Jeremy Carter and Gordon Spain chasing him. And Jeremy Carter was a touch faster than both of them as you see him to the inside of Neal right now. This is a battle for 8th.
Oh. I think he's going to be clear of him.
He sure is. Well, there's the crossover move to the inside. He didn't keep the momentum up. Joshua Neal looking to take the position back down the front stretch. Will he be able to regain 8th coming into turn 1? I don't think he's going to be clear. Carter's going to keep it spun up on the high side. I take that back. Neal needs to clear him right now. Oh. He doesn't. He does not pull up in front of him.
Now watch very close here, John, because with these two battling, you're going to have the 3 of Gordon Spain right on their bumper. And he is there waiting for those two to make just one little mistake so he could get by and take 2 for 1.
And Joshua Neal with a lot of respect right there for Jeremy Carter. He had the opportunity to slide up in front of him, take that 8th place position back. Instead, he gave Jeremy Carter the lane, and these guys have a 3-way battle for 8th. Back up here to second. Puffenbarger still trying to chase down Alex Teft for P2. Puffenbarger, of course, your points leader coming into this week. Teft, currently 2,031 points coming into this race. You know, having a bad week last week. I think he finished 22nd, but he had a large amount of bonus points coming into the playoffs, which helped cushion the bad finish. And trying to follow that up with a P2 finish here tonight's really going to be a great way to recover. Back here to Gordon Spain, running 10th right now, looking for something better if he can get it. Andrew Teft still back here in the 16th position, not really making any ground on Diego Rodriguez, who's in 15th. And Rodriguez, he's got Marshall Harris right in front of him. That's a battle for position. And then he's got to look 4 seconds ahead to this group of Lockett, Schoenbachler, and Dennis Kane. Lockett, of course, another playoff driver, currently running 12th. who had a really good week last week, and he's hoping to pull out a few more points. So last week he won the pole, got a bonus point, finished P2, almost got the win. So, you know, a 12th isn't a killer right here, but to really be competitive for this championship, he would like to pick up a couple more positions for that 93 Tennessee Titans machine.
I mean, why not? As you see right there, 26 of Jeremy Carter inside the top 10. Doing an excellent job here tonight, but it looks like it's going to all lead down to Austin Smith here. Remember, he lost last week a lot. He wasn't at Las Vegas, I should say. He mentioned to us that he had to get a win or two to be secure in these playoffs and get points, and he's doing it right here at Michigan, leading this pack, going on lap 92 here. And there's just going to be 8 laps to go here, John. And I don't see anything changing unless the caution comes out.
No, he's got nearly a 3-second gap on Alex Tepps. This is about when I expected there to be a caution, if there's going to be a caution. We're going to find out. These drivers are close proximity. They all need the spot. Gordon Spain trying to take 9th away from Joshua Neal. Currently has it as they cross start finish line for only 8 laps to go. Jeremy Carter running in the P8 position. Let's go. You can go a little further back here. Lockett and Schoenbachler. And back up here for second. Teft sort of stepping away from Puffenbarger now. I would say that might be a pretty safe bet, but, you know, there's still plenty of corners left here at Michigan to end up in the wall. These guys were all on pit road around lap 65, 68. So tire wear is going to start playing a factor here shortly, and anything can happen.
Anything could happen. We still have a few laps to go, but I mean, look, I want to see a driver right here to 59 True Poke. He has had an up and down few last races. He's here and there, but I mean, I feel like he's just not executing as well as he needs to.
Well, that's pretty evident. He's running 22nd tonight. We know that he's fast. We've seen him have speed at other places, and, you know, but execution can also just be that monkey that jumps on your back, and sometimes you just can't get it off for a season. Back in my racing days, I could just put a string of bad races together, you know, just like Dennis Kane. You run well in the top 10, top 5, and then you're just not able to finish, and that's been the story of Dennis Kane's season as well as Truth Hoax. A lot of speed, good lap times, but just something always kind of goes wrong. And, you know, so some of these guys are ready to get through this season, take a short break. It's a very short break. In fact, it might even be a week turnaround. But for them, it's going to be a new season. And it will be. Not even 1 week later after the finale will these guys be going into their next season. But for the guys that didn't have the year that they wanted, it's a new season. It's a clean slate. You get to go back, try this all over again, and maybe the cards will fall in place for you a little bit better, as we're coming to 5 to go now for Austin Smith. 5 laps away from making up that missed race and really putting himself in position to have an opportunity. Alex Tepps stepped away from Puffenbarger. I think his position's safe. Let's come back over here to the battle between the 15 car of Kinsley Smith and Brandon Honeycutt. That's about 0.6 of a second. And, you know, this is the battle that keeps on giving between Gordon Spain and Jeremy Carter. This is one that's going to be points really up right here. You know, these guys are 0.2 of a second apart. And Joshua Neal is just trying to hang on to 10th, doesn't want to give up a spot to a non-playoff driver in Dennis Kane. But these guys are just back and forth when it comes to Spain and Carter.
Well, I mean, that's what you expect here. I mean, it is playoff racing.
Yeah, playoff racing indeed. And these playoff drivers showing what they've got. You know, 9 out of the top 10 are playoff cars, 11th and 12th as well. Dennis Kane snuck into the top 10, but it's already back out of it as Joshua Neal's battling hard on the high side, trying to hang on to 10th for only 3 more laps. Austin Smith just crossed the start-finish line. Only so many more corners to go for Austin Smith. Teff solidly is P2. Brandon Puffenbarger, P3. We might just have a caution-free race here for the Racers Elite Next Gen Series. I don't think I've been a part of a caution-free race in my entire time of broadcasting, and I wouldn't expect anything less from this series, as I thought there was about to be one right there with that number 6 and 25 machine, but they held on to it. Marshall Harris, unfortunate, having to pit now with only 2 to go. Smith is going to take that flag. Popsicle sticks are in the air. 2 to go here at Michigan. And, you know, the battle's really Jeremy Carter, Gordon Spain right now. Which one of these guys is it going to be? And Joshua Neal still trying to desperately hang on to 10th place. And I take that back. Look at this battle. Battle's all over the place. White flag is out. I take that back. Austin Smith is so far ahead that I thought he was the white flag. This battle here, Kinsley Smith, Brandon Honeycutt, this is for 6th place. This is important as Smith has that spot. Honeycutt wants it. Now Austin Smith did take the white flag. Last lap, last set of corners for Austin Smith. These guys are side by side in this other battle. Gordon Spain's going to have to really just, you know, drive that car to try to get that position. Dennis Kane took that spot over. One more lap for these 2 guys to sort out 10th place. Austin Smith into turn 3, coming out of turn number 4. Missed last week's race. Unofficially is going to cross the checkered line and win it here at Michigan with Alex Teft, P2. Right here, these guys, who's it going to be? Is Honeycutt going to have the opportunity into the corner? Kinsley Smith looks like, I don't think so. Smith has a much better corner. Here's Jeremy Carter involved. It doesn't look like he's going to be there. It's going to be Kinsley Smith. Honeycutt, Carter, Gordon Spain. Dennis Kane sneaks into the top 10. Joshua Neal outside the top 10 of that 82. Zach Lockett's going to bring it home 12th. Andrew Teft is going to finish 17th tonight.
What a great race. This was an incredible race here from Michigan. Austin Smith getting the win. Wasn't here last week at Las Vegas and gets the W here. And that's going to help him tremendously as we continue the next race in the playoffs.
Now everybody stick around. We're going to be interviewing a handful of these drivers tonight. This race went caution-free, folks. When does that happen? Thank you, Racers Elite drivers, for showing us how to get it done. We're going to be interviewing our winner tonight, who you know he's happy. He called a shot a couple weeks ago, and he's got it done tonight. And just look at that burnout. After we talk to him, we're going to bring up the point situation and let you guys see how these drivers are going to look going into Talladega minus bonus points, which you get a bonus point for being the pole position driver, and you get a bonus point for the most laps led. So that's worth noting. Daniel, Austin Smith, he's yours to bring in an interview, and I can't wait to hear his excitement. All right.
Hey, Austin, it's Daniel and Jonathan in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I got you guys. How's it going?
Oh, it's going fantastic. A caution-free race here from Michigan tonight. Congratulations on getting the W here tonight from Michigan, because remember last week you weren't at Las Vegas, but you said prior to that you would need to get a win to get those points, and you did get a bonus point also from leading laps. So tell us, fans and broadcasters, what it was like racing tonight for Michigan.
Yeah, it was a good race. Happy that it went kind of green to checkered. That really helped out. I really wasn't super comfortable. I didn't qualify super well. The car just felt very uncomfortable to me, but with those long green flag runs, I was starting to be able to kind of figure it out and just take my time and be patient with it. So, you know, Alex was quick on the long runs. He was closing in every long run we had there, and so I was kind of worried about that, but it seemed like a little bit of lap traffic got in the way for him. So, anyways, good race. Happy to get the win. I was kind of in a hole not being able to race last week, so we just got to keep going out, try to get good finishes, and see if we can be close to the end.
Well, next week we're heading to Talladega Super Speedway, the big 2.5-mile oval. And let me tell you, what are your expectations going into Talladega? Because I know for me, it's kind of scary if you're in a hole right now in the playoffs, but you're looking pretty good heading into Talladega. What's your strategy to finish that race and get a good position?
Yeah, honestly, I'm just gonna try to work with my team as much as we can. Try to stick together, help push each other when we can. I mean, I know that there's going to be instances in that race where we're going to have to throw it 3 wide to, you know, try to get up towards the front. So, you know, anything can happen. I usually don't feel super good about super speedways, but you're going to have to be a little aggressive and see if we can get another win next week.
Well, congratulations on a top 3 finish here and getting the W here from Michigan. Do you have any fans that you would like to thank, sponsors?
Yeah, I need to thank my family for always tuning in, watching. Need to thank my team, Middle Smart Sports, always helping each other out. Had a pretty good finish with everybody tonight. So shout out to them, and need to thank you guys for broadcasting and putting on a good show. And then, of course, Andrew, as always, for putting on this league and Racers Elite, everything that goes into it. I just want to thank them.
Well, congratulations once again. We'll see you from Talladega, Alabama next week here in the Racers Elite Next Gen Cup Series.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring in third place finisher to the booth. So now third place finisher with us now, Brandon Puffenbarger. Brandon, tell us about tonight's event. We were hoping to talk to you under a caution, but we didn't have any. We went green flag to checker flag without incidents tonight. Are you happy with P3, or do you think you left a couple points on the table?
I think I left a few points on the table. I should have pitted a couple laps before Austin on that last pit cycle, or I wouldn't have been 2 seconds behind. But all in all, pretty happy with it. I think I was pretty competitive for the most part all night, so I'm happy with that.
I can tell you you're going to walk away tonight with a better lead than you had coming in. So you're going to be leading the standings. But I definitely understand thinking that you had the opportunity to pick up more points. So the big thing is next week when we go into Talladega, you've got to survive it in order to be able to win. You know, a bad finish there could really mess everything up. But if any driver is sort of safe going into next week, it's going to be you. And if you stick around, we're going to put up the points and you'll be able to see what your situation looks like minus bonus points. But for you, how do you handle a track like Talladega?
If it was if it was regular season, I'd just go for it. But since the championship's on the line, I'm probably gonna ride in the back. I don't know. I'll probably mix it up. We'll see how I feel next Thursday night and see what I'll do.
All right, Brandon. Well, thanks for the insight. Is there anyone you want to mention before we let you go tonight?
You guys for putting on the show. Andrew and everybody for putting on the league and coming out. And Austin is welcome for my advice before the race.
I saw those discussions, and that gave me a little bit of a laugh. All right, Brandon. Well, look forward to talking to you again next week. Going to try to talk to drivers pre-race and see how everybody's feeling. You might be one of those guys. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a good night.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, Daniel. I'm going to bring in Alex Teft for us. I'm gonna do this one here. Alex Teft, Jonathan, Daniel in the broadcast booth. Welcome to the booth and welcome to your top 3 finish that was greatly needed tonight. How are you feeling after recovering tonight with a P2?
Definitely a lot better than I did last week. I was actually, I was able to make it across the start-finish line before getting wrecked, so it's a plus. Actually qualified good and just managed to keep it up front all race.
Yeah, last week just just kind of the epitome of things go wrong that are just completely out of your control. Twice were issues that were related to other drivers that were just sim issues, disconnected wheel, and then just that accordion effect of guys who didn't go, and you just got caught up in both of them. And I do want to mention, you showed everybody how to be a warrior, and you stayed in the race. You were 8 laps down last week. You stayed in it, and you didn't finish last, and that helped you out a lot. And that's kind of the heart of the champion here. So tonight, P2 is a good recovery. You need to follow it up next week at Talladega. How would you plan on doing that?
Usually, for the most part, I just try to, stay in one spot for most of the race. Try not to be too aggressive and just keep the nose clean and stay, I'd say, in the front 3 rows for the most part. I feel like that's probably the safest place to be. But yeah, just the key is being there at the end.
Yeah, I guess I could agree with that. The floor is yours. If there's anyone you'd like to mention, anything you'd like to say, go ahead and let your fans, fellow drivers, everybody know before we let you go.
No, definitely thank you guys over to Sim Racing Media, putting on these broadcasts every week. Thank the league, Races Elite. Been really good racing lately, super clean. And thank all the viewers that watch all the time, my friends that watch, my girlfriend, and yeah, hopefully I can, keep putting some good finishes together and come out with this championship.
All right. Well, good race for you. We look forward to talking to you next week, Alex. I hope you enjoy your night and enjoy P2.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, Daniel, we got a couple more drivers that we will want to talk to tonight, trying to pick our next one here. We talked to the top 3. Now it's time to talk to another one of these guys. And I'm thinking it's time to bring Corey Crowd to the booth. So Corey's now with us and with you.
All right. Hello, Corey. It's Daniel and Jonathan in the booth. How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. You put on a great performance here tonight, finishing inside the top 5. Let us fans know, like, how was the racing tonight? Was the draft really helpful? Was your car too loose? Was it too tight? Like, what was the experience you were having?
Yeah, I don't think the draft really helped. I think we were pretty much redlined at about start finish line in the draft, so I mean it didn't really help. It was kind of hard to pass. I think the passing was a lot of it was in the outside once you started getting tire wear. For me, I was just super tight all race, especially in the long runs. I just kind of managed it and tried to maintain a position, and luckily it was in the top 5.
So now that Michigan's out of the way, what are your expectations going into next week's playoff race? We're at Talladega, where nobody's safe. You can end up in a big hole after that race. But what's your strategy going into Talladega? Do you know, like, if you're going to stay towards the back more, or you're going to be up front?
Yeah, I think that really depends on where I start. I think if I start in the middle or near the back, I'll see how it starts playing out at the beginning, and if it just looks like I'm going to stay in the middle, I'm probably going to work my way to the back just to try to be patient and stay out of the big one. But if I get to the front, I mean, ideally that's where I'd want to be. Just hopefully that it's nice and clean up there.
Well, no guarantees, but the way you guys were racing tonight, I'm sure it'll be very, very good race going on. A lot of great pushes too. So do you have any sponsors or fans that you would like to thank?
Oh yeah, you guys for broadcasting it. Racers Elite for the league. The teammates at Midwest Motorsports. I mean, it was a good solid finish for all of us. I know everybody on our team that was in the playoffs finished in the top 10, so that was pretty awesome. And then just everybody that watches this. I mean, feels like we're really gaining traction, and I'm looking forward to next season just to see this league really blow up. So.
Well, I
Well,
tell you what, I
congratulations.
sorry to butt in on you, Daniel. I want to race.
Hey, you're fine.
I haven't
You're
wanted to
fine.
race in a long time, you know, and this league makes me want to race. And, you know, I've told Andrew that before, and I can't think of a better way to, you know, applaud this series. And, you know, myself wanting to race in it. And then it's just, I listen to you guys, and y'all are super appreciative of how the league is run. And, you know, and that's just outstanding, and it's fun to be here week in and week out. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I have an opening on the team for Nextgen and Xfinity. So all you got to do is pull the trigger and let me know.
yeah, I guess you're right. You know, I am a Midwest guy, wearing my
There you
flannel
go.
right now. Yeah.
Don't worry, John. We'll take it over for you so you can go out and have some fun on the track.
Yeah, that would be a fun time. But anyhow, Corey, another good showing. You know, always kind of show up at the end. Looking forward to next week and seeing how the rest of the season goes on. I'm sure we'll talk soon. I hope you have a great night, man.
Hey, thank you guys.
All right, Daniel, we're going to talk to one more driver. I'm thinking that we're going to go with the driver of the number 15, and he's going to be with you as well. Kinsley Smith, welcome to the broadcast booth with Daniel Paulus and myself, Jonathan. Daniel, go ahead.
Kinsley Smith, how are we doing tonight?
Doing all right. Could be better.
So how was your car handling tonight? Was it too loose, too tight? Was it just right? How was the racing dynamics all around you tonight? And was it living up to your expectations?
A little bit tighter than I wanted it, especially in the long run. I'm better on a looser car, so if I would have had a looser car, I think it would have worked out a little bit better for me. But yeah, long runs were crazy tight, especially in 3 and 4. If you don't hit it quite right, I hit the wall twice coming out of 3 and 4 because I was too tight.
Well, now that Michigan's out of the way, we're gonna be going to Talladega. What's your outcome on Talladega?
I'm gonna run the safe strategy. I'm pretty sure after this race I'll be second in points, so I don't want to destroy that trying to do too much. So I think me and my team are coming up with a plan to try and stay at the back a little bit and then start making our way forward towards the end of the race.
All right, and now that Michigan's behind us and Talladega's next week, I know you said that you were going to play it safe, but do you see yourself probably staying in the front for a little bit in the beginning of the race, or are you not going to do that at all and just, hang low until it's time to start going?
I think it is the best thing to hang low and stay in the back. A lot of beating and banging towards the front, and I don't want to have to sacrifice my fast repair if I don't need to. So I'd rather like to keep it in my back pocket in case I need it later.
Sounds like a good plan to me. All right. Do you have any sponsors, fans, or family that you would like to thank?
My wife and my daughter, of course. And then on top of that, my team, Driving Extreme Inc., working together really well and getting plans together for these races. And some of them are working out pretty good. So I think we're doing a good job.
Well, congratulations on a good run here tonight. We'll see you next week from Alabama, Talladega.
Thanks, guys.
Alabama, Talladega.
Talladega, Alabama.
All right, Daniel. Another really good race. Green all the way through this one. It's time to show the fans, everybody that stuck around, what the points were like before tonight. Or, excuse me, I guess we're going to show what the points are tonight. After tonight's race, Brandon Puffenbarger, 2,088 points. Kinsley Smith is correct. P2, 4 points behind. Corey Crowell's third, 2083. Brad Hayes, the driver who just snuck into the playoffs solidly in P4. Let's go back down here to 7th for Alex Teft. Tonight's recovery has put him in contention, but he's still 15 points out at 2,073 points. And Austin Smith, even though he won tonight's race, he won it, he is still last and 36 points out of the lead. He's going to have to win another race if he wants to make up that gap. And I do think Talladega is going to be his best opportunity, to do that. And people are going to have trouble next week. Some guys are going to get lucky. We heard a mix of different strategy. I'm going to race up front and go for it. I'm going to go straight to the back. I'm going to do a mix of both. We heard it from these guys. Yep. Multiple different strategies going into Talladega. I'm excited to see how that race goes, and it's going to be a fun one. So let's look at tonight's results. I'll go first through 10, and you'll take the rest. Austin Smith brings it home, P1, with Alex Teft, P2. Puffenbarger is third place. Brad Hayes, another great top 5 finish in 4th. Midwest Motorsports driver owner Corey Crowell, 5th place. Kinsley Smith is 6th. 7th is Brandon Honeycutt. Jeremy Carter with a great top 10 is 8th, and Gordon Spain is 9th. 10th belongs to Dennis Kane.
Just outside the top 10, we're going to have in 11th place Joshua O'Neill. A solid night for Joshua O'Neill. Just didn't quite get inside the top 10, but I expect to see him up front next week at Talladega. Finishing 12th, we have Zach Lockett, another solid driver that didn't finish inside the top 10. 13th place, Joan Schoenbachler, another good driver. 14th place, Diego Rodriguez, been having that up and down trend inside and outside the top 10, doing an excellent job here in the postseason. 15th place, we have Paul Shaw in that 25 Wind Creek machine. 16th place, Noah Tinsman. 17th place, Andrew Teft, not having the runs he wants in the postseason, and he has some work to do starting next week from Talladega. Finishing 18th, we have Michael Brooks. 19th, Sam Kohlhaas. 20th, Michael Smith. 21st, Truth Hoke. Another driver that I want to keep a close eye on next week because I expect to see him being a good pusher from Talladega.
Not to mention,
22nd, we have.
His team is Upfront Motorsports. So, that's how you win at Talladega. You stay up front. That's my philosophy. Go ahead.
I like that. Finishing 22nd, we have Marshall Harris. 23rd, Thomas Stanley. 24th, Joe Archer is 2nd. 25th, Brandon Zimmerman. 26th, Jason Bonhams rounds out your field here from Michigan.
That's another great race for the Racers Elite Nextgen series. Like I said, Daniel really makes me want to drive. We'll do one more time. Gonna check the current points going into next week. So Puffenbarger, Smith, Crowell, Brad Hayes, Zach Lockett's 5th at 2,077 points, tied with Brandon Honeycutt. So 6th on the 1st. Those guys are pretty close. The guys behind them are going to need a little bit of help to make up the points differential. Gordon Spain is 8th, 9th is Jeremy Carter, 10th is Andrew Teft, Joshua Neal is 11th, and again Austin Smith won tonight, and he's still last in the playoff points since he missed last week. Only one last thing to do, Daniel. I'm going to thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank the Sim Racing Media family and the Racers Elite administrative staff for allowing us to call great shows 3 nights a week, and we're working on a 4th night on Saturdays, so stay tuned for that. And as Tony would say, Daniel, as you walk through life, ladies and gentlemen, please do not play in traffic. We'll see you next week on Tuesday for more Racers Elite and SRM. Good night.